Part 1. The Shop That Time Forgot. Elias Gray was a man who understood the language of time. He had spent the better part of 3 decades repairing its countless messengers, clocks, watches, tiny wind-up devices that once belonged to people who could not bear the silence of a still moment. His shop, tucked at the corner of Bramble and Pine, had a name faded by rain and years: Gray & Co. Timepieces. It was a modest place, with windows clouded by dust, shelves lined with wood and brass, and a single lamp that threw a warm circle of light upon the workbench. The air inside always smelled of oil and varnish, mixed with the faint sweetness of old paper. Some said the shop looked as though it had been frozen in an older age, a relic in a world that was moving too fast for pendulums and winding keys. Elias liked it that way. The slow rhythm of his days suited him. People hurried outside, glancing at the time on glowing screens, but inside his shop, seconds slipped by in the steady language of ticks and tocks. At 45, Elias lived alone, though he never thought of himself as lonely. He had friends, at least the kind who waved from across the street, asked about the weather, and promised to stop by for tea, but rarely did. His life was unremarkable, a series of quiet days and predictable nights, and for the most part he accepted it. Until recently. In the last year he had begun to feel a heaviness he could not name. Each morning when he turned the brass key in the shop door and inhaled the familiar scent of wood and dust, a question stirred at the back of his mind. Is this all there is? It wasn't dissatisfaction, so much as the hollow echo of something unfinished. Time, he realized, had a cruel way of whispering to you when you least expected it. You wake up one day, and you are no longer 30, no longer full of the fire that once made you chase after things that mattered. You have become careful, predictable, safe. He thought of his father sometimes, a stern man with gentle hands who had taught him the craft of repairing clocks. Time, his father once said, tightening the last screw on a mantel clock, is the only thing you can never earn back, so treat it like gold. Elias had nodded then, a boy of 12 who believed he understood the weight of those words. But now, decades later, he wondered if he truly had. It was on a Tuesday afternoon, just after the church bell tolled 3 times, that something happened, something that would change everything. The rain had stopped only minutes before, leaving the street outside slick and glistening. Elias sat at his bench, adjusting the delicate balance wheel of a pocket watch, when the door chimed softly. He looked up, expecting Mrs. Linton from the bakery, or perhaps old Mr. Reeves, who often brought in broken alarm clocks that smelled faintly of tobacco. But there was no one there. Only the door swinging gently on its hinges and the cool breath of rain slipping inside. Elias frowned and stepped out from behind the counter. The street was empty, the wet cobblestones reflecting the gray sky. When he turned back, he saw it, and for a moment he thought his eyes had tricked him. There, resting on the counter where nothing had been before, stood a clock. It was tall, about the height of his chest, crafted from dark mahogany polished to a mirror shine. Its face was round and pale, the numbers written in elegant script like something from another century. The hands, thin, silver, and intricate, moved slowly with a grace that seemed almost alive. But what made Elias freeze was not its beauty. It was the motion of the hands. The clock was ticking backward.
Part 2. The Clock's Secret. For a long moment, Elias simply stared. The soft tick, tick, tick filled the shop, but it was an unfamiliar rhythm, like footsteps retreating instead of approaching. He stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat. Backward, he whispered, as though saying it out loud might make sense of it. He leaned in, eyes narrowing behind his spectacles. The second hand moved counterclockwise, smooth as silk, gliding from 5 to 4, from 4 to 3, unhurried and deliberate. "This isn't possible," Elias murmured. His hands trembled as he reached out, brushing the polished wood with his fingertips. It was warm, almost alive. He searched for a maker's mark, a signature, anything, but found none. A joke, perhaps? Some clever mechanism to amuse the owner? But who had brought it? The door had chimed, yes, but no one had stepped inside. He checked the door again, even peered down the street, but the world remained empty and gray. When he returned, the clock stood exactly as before, its backward dance unbroken. Against his better judgment, Elias lifted the glass cover and touched the minute hand gently. It resisted, firm and strong, as if held by more than gears and springs. Then something happened. As his fingers brushed the silver hand, a sound bloomed in his mind. Not in the air, not in the room, but deep inside his head. It was faint at first, like the echo of a distant melody, then clearer, the sound of laughter, children's laughter. He froze, breath held. The laughter grew louder, and with it came the smell of something sweet, apple pie, fresh from an oven. And then a voice, a woman's voice, warm and familiar, calling a name, his name. Elias jerked his hand back. The sounds vanished. The shop returned, quiet except for the steady, backward ticking. He sat down heavily on the stool, heart pounding like a hammer. For a long time, he did not move. Was he dreaming? Losing his mind? He stared at the clock, at its polished wood and silver hands, and something inside him, a small, cautious thing, whispered, "It showed you a memory long buried, of a day when his mother baked pies in the summer heat, and he and his cousins played in the orchard behind the house. A day untouched by grief, before his parents grew old and the world grew quiet." How long had it been since he had thought of that? He looked at the clock again, and for the first time in years, Elias Bray felt wonder stir in his chest.
Part 3. Steps into Yesterday. The days that followed blurred into a strange rhythm. Elias opened the shop as usual, repaired watches, greeted customers, but his mind circled endlessly around the mahogany clock. He tried everything, examined its gears, traced its springs, even dismantled the outer casing, but the mechanism inside defied explanation. It was far too simple to reverse time, and yet it did. And every time he touched it, the visions returned. Not always the same. Sometimes it was the sound of rain on a tin roof. Sometimes the scent of his father's tobacco. Sometimes the warmth of a hand he had not held in decades. Each fragment pulled him deeper into the past, each note a thread in the tapestry of his life. He began to visit the places those memories belonged to. The old orchard, now wild and tangled, the riverbank where he had once skipped stones, the narrow street where he first kissed Anna under the soft glow of a gas lamp. Anna. Her name was a whisper that lingered on his lips long after he returned to the empty shop. She had left years ago, carrying her laughter and dreams to a city far away. He had let her go, telling himself he was doing the noble thing,
that she deserved more than a quiet man with a shop full of ticking ghosts. But in the stillness of his nights, he wondered if that choice had cost him more than he could ever name. The clock ticked backward, and with each motion, Elias felt time bending, not in the world around him, but inside his heart.
Part 4. The Choice. It was on the 7th day that the whisper came. Not a memory this time, but a voice. Soft, like wind through autumn leaves. Would you go back if you could? Elias looked around, but the shop was empty. His eyes fell on the clock. Its hands moved steadily in reverse, silver gleaming in the lamplight. "What are you?" he breathed. The voice came again, from nowhere and everywhere. "One day, that is all I can give. One day to live again. Will you take it?" His heart lurched. One day, to go back, to step into the warmth of what once was. Anna's face rose before him, bright as morning. His mother's laughter, the orchard in bloom. "Yes," Elias whispered, his voice trembling. "Yes, I would." The clock's ticking slowed. The silver hands glimmered like falling stars. "Then choose," the voice said. "Choose your day." And Elias knew, without hesitation, which day it would be.
Part 5. The Forward Tick. He woke to sunlight slanting through the orchard leaves, the air sweet with ripening apples. He was 20 again, barefoot in the grass, and Anna stood before him, her hair a river of gold in the wind. She smiled, and the world seemed to hold its breath. For that one day, Elias lived, not as a man haunted by years, but as a boy whose heart beat wild and free. He walked the old roads, tasted his mother's pie, kissed Anna beneath the gas lamp as twilight spilled across the sky. And when night fell, he held her hand and whispered the words he had once swallowed in fear. "Stay." She looked at him, eyes wide, and in them he saw forever. Then darkness closed like a curtain. Elias woke in his shop, the lamplight warm on the mahogany clock. Its hands no longer moved. The backward tick was gone. For a long moment he sat in silence, tears tracing the lines of his face. Then he smiled. Because time, he realized, was not the enemy. It was a gift, a fragile, fleeting gift, and every breath, every heartbeat was a chance to live. He stood, straightened his coat, and turned the sign on the door to open. Outside, the street gleamed in the morning sun, and for the first time in years, Elias Gray stepped forward into the bright, unbroken now. The end.